Coming up on this program, we show you how to get connected. Find out how to choose an internet service provider. Discover the newest form of communication, electronic mail.
Ways down and ready to ride. One by one, billion by billion, they're holding up half the sky. Raise your hand if you're ready and willing, if you know it's time. Time for a girl on time. Time for a girl on time. Time for
Good morning. I just finished my last sip of coffee and muttered under my, oh wait, sorry, there's one left. One little tiny sip. Don't spill it. And I said, that's unfortunate. I got ready. I did a lot of things this morning, but refilling my coffee was not one of them yet. But I think we'll have time for that. I hope everybody's well. Did you have a good Friday night? It's Saturday morning. I know Sashina's doing a premiere right now. I'm sorry that I overlapped that, Sashina. Guys, if you don't know, Sashina is a writer. She's a teacher. She's a lady with animals. I always get it wrong. I think they're goats, but then I think you're wrong. They're sheep. And then I think, no, I think they're goats. And then I vacillate. So, anyways, why I say this is because Sashina, great support of the channel, and we want to support her. So make sure that you check her channel out and subscribe. Like I said, she's written a very long novel that is very, very detailed, and she's putting it to video via YouTube and AI and herself, I think. She has both goats and sheep, so I'm fucking right all the time. Right all the time, except when I'm fixing my green screen. So fuzzy. Anyways, and she doesn't need a lawnmower, that's right. Anyways, besides the point, you know how it goes in this room. I really, really know what the grind is as a creator. Oh, Reseller Road Trip Adventures. You wrote the intro to the podcast, and now you have cold feet. My advice is do it. Do it and don't look back. Seriously, the reason I say that is because every single creator you talk to, whether it is in almost any medium that you think about, whether it's content creation or clay art or painting or comedy or acting, photography, you can fucking insert anything here. When you speak with somebody, even if they are really good at what they do, even if you look up to them and you think, wow, you're amazing, I want to be like you, that person will always look back at their early stuff and cringe a little bit. They'll see their mistakes, they'll see their growth in that, but there's no shame in that, and if you don't start, you can't get going. So my advice would be, get it going and don't worry about it. You'll always get better. That's my theory on it. Anyways, because the reality is you'll always, and don't sort of, well, I don't know. I'm not very successful. See, the problem is that advice is very good generally, but specifically, on YouTube, if you're doing something on YouTube, make videos, don't do live streams. Sorry. It's not the way to it. But, my point is, that's very niche and specific advice, and if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that another day. But um but generally speaking, for any sort of thing that you're working on, uh get it going. Do it. Don't worry too much about it, and invite us for sure. And the thing is this, reseller, like I cringe watching my earlier stuff. We listened the other day to my voice and I was like, ugh. I know my voice hasn't changed that much, but it's just like listening to the beginning. John, I know, honey. I don't look at my channels. I have 2 channels and I'm not very good at editing videos. So I do live streams too. I'm just explaining that it is not, and I repeat, it is not a path to profitability for a career. If you want to make a career on YouTube, you're going to need to learn to edit videos, and you're going to need to learn to, or make shorts. But if you like talking to people like I do and John does, then you do live streams like this. That's why I do this. Because I like it. There's literally no other reason. So, yeah, you're right, Shane. Nobody likes the sound of their own voice, but I like the look of my own face, which is part of why I like it on the big screen in front of me. Anyways, speaking of my big ass face, and that's the beauty, John. I'm sorry you're blue up here, but point being, do what you do because you like it, or because you're good at it, you enjoy it, you get something out of it, or you want to do it. But what's funny is this video. So, for example, even if this case is a fucking banger, right? The one that's coming up, the TPO that we haven't seen yet, even if it's a banger, this 8 minutes that we'll have spent here will scare off most people from watching this video. And I recognize that. Those are not the people I'm going for. It's unfortunate, but it is the truth. And so, without further ado, because even I have a limit, we should get started on the video. Although I'm sure I've talked my way through videos all the way through. We are going back to Thurston County because Thurston County is crazy. So reseller, let's come full circle. I'm so proud of you, first of all, that you wrote an intro. That's really great. The second you said that, I thought to myself, have you ever written an intro? And the answer is no, I've never. I ramble, and that's okay. But I do sort of think of things, and when I thought of Sashina and I thought of what to say when I started with her, what I was gonna say is a writer like Sashina could take Thurston County and write an opera about this county. These people have so many fucking problems. It's insane. I think you'll all agree. We listen to their problems so fucking much. It's almost a joke. And I know it's like we're sort of getting a bias because we only watch the hearings where people are having problems. But, I mean, come on. Now, we've already watched 2 of these, but we did not watch the 3rd one. So we got to watch it. Okay, so I think it's this one. See, there's Sashina's thing going. I have notifications on Sashina. But reminder for anybody YouTubing, YouTube Daddy only sends out 3 messages per, or 3 notifications per 24-hour period. So if you're a channel that puts out a lot
All right,
of
Mr.
content,
Petey and Ms. Bowman.
okay, here we go.
And Mr. Petey, am I pronouncing your name correctly? You're muted.
Yeah, John, what are you using? OBS or Streamlabs? I'm just going to quickly address this for John. John, when I use Streamlabs, but I've used many different like softwares. So what you're going to do is there's usually a little calendar looking. Can we make a link to resellers cellulite yoga pants? Like a command. Anyways, just if we think about it. But John, you'll see a little schedule thing. Schedule it via Oh, actually no. So that opposite. Go to YouTube Studio. From within your studio, schedule your live first. You have to click the upload button. It'll bring up the upload window. X out of that. Then you can click go live. Hit that, and there's a button in the corner that says schedule stream. Click that, and you can set up all of your stream information, and it'll say how are you streaming, and you just select streaming software. And then you can go all the way through, set it up for any day and time in the future. Make sure that you turn on the chat functions because it doesn't default on. And then schedule that. And then when you go to use your OBS software, when you go live, it'll usually say, do you want to like start a new one? Or there'll be a drop down and you just click that and then you can find anything that's scheduled for the channel that you have connected. Okay. Enough tech stuff. And sorry, I said that fast. You'll have to review that again. But, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's Petey.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if two of you would raise your right hands for me, please. Swear that testimony in this case to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Petey, you report that Ms. Bowman has made calls to your employer saying bad things about you, potentially libelous things, and you believe that she damaged your car, probably scratched it, and that she drove through your yard.
Correct,
Are
sir.
those essentially the allegations here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you have any evidence that it was, in fact, Ms. Bowman, besides your suspicion, do you have any evidence that, in fact, it was Ms. Bowman who keyed your car or drove
I do
through
not
your
have
yard?
cameras, sir. No, so, but there was text messages from the day before, very, very rude stuff, allegations about me and my son and stuff that I've tried to get off of social media, but she has me blocked. So I was unable to get all those messages. So
All right.
then since then, she's walked by and flipped me and my son off through
Whenever you get
our
your new
kitchen window.
channel reseller, we can change it up. Or whenever you're ready to post it, okay? Don't worry, we can add as many commands as we want. I'm the big boss around here. If you haven't posted it, maybe I'm now misinterpreting. Paisley, just hit the fucking play button. Look at Laura, though, by the way. Also, I was just thinking we should implement something. You just thumbed up the screen when I said it. Well, I felt that. Thank you. Laura felt it too, but you got it up her butt. I'm sorry to say. You're going to want to wash your hands. That's terrible. Anyways, oh God, what was I gonna say? Shit. Oh, I can't remember. Whatever. Oh, I have an iced coffee in the fridge. Oh, somebody, not me, left the fridge open last night. Just a little bit. Naybell. Hi. So my fridge is too hot and I'm not happy about it. I've put some ice in there to try and help rapid chill it and close the door and turn the alarm back on, the door alarm. I don't know what fool knows how to turn off the fucking alarm for the fridge door but not to fucking close it. Because I'll tell you, I didn't. Oh. Anyways, that's a story for another day. Let's get to these people's fucking shit, and then we'll go from there.
Joe, as he's playing with his Legos, he's done that several times since the time she drove through my yard twice one day.
All right. But once again, you believe she drove through your yard. You didn't see her
I
drive
did see
through.
her. I was sitting in the window and I tried to take a picture of her, but because it was darker and I was through a kitchen window, I wasn't able to get the proper picture. But I
Okay.
did see her twice.
You were certain it was Ms. Bowman who did so.
100%. I could see her crazy look in her face as she drove through my yard.
What time of day or night was it?
It was probably right at dusk.
Okay. What time of
So-
year?
And I have a street light. It was
What-
on February 8th, actually. And I have a street light right on my corner. And then also the officer seen the tracks as well. And then when he went up to go talk to her, she basically slammed the door in his face. And then he
And-
came back to talk to me, and she went screaming back down through the road again, right in front of him, speeding very fast. But of course, he was
Okay.
talking to me, so he couldn't gun her. And then, of course, as you see with the paperwork later on that night, she came back down and called me a cop calling little, well, you know. And then so back like 40 minutes later to see if she'd come back down, and of course she didn't. But yeah, so there's been multiple things.
Okay, so when she drove across your yard, what do you mean by that?
So she drove between a telephone pole and two street signs between my house and those three objects and drove through and then right down through the dirt. And then 10 minutes later or less, she drove back through the other way. And then so officer seen tracks. He said, yes, those are definitely fresh tracks. And these aren't tracks that match your vehicle. So when he went to go talk to her, and he was asking her questions and she started screaming at him and slammed the door in his face. And that's when he came back and talked to me. And then not even 3 minutes after our conversation, she went driving, speeding down Union Street once again. So I believe that if the officer wasn't there, she probably would have drove through my yard again. And I have a 9-year-old boy, and I can't have people driving through my yard like that. I mean, that's just craziness. It's right through the grass, dead center through the yard.
And was
Hold on, y'all's fridges don't have beeping when you've left it open? It's a setting on the fridge. Also, I forgot. The good news is this. It's not a bad fridge. It's not a broken fridge. So it chilled extremely quickly. It's already down to almost perfect level. It's at 41. So excellent work, fridge, first of all. Second of all, that's why I was actually digging around in it, because I was like, where's my fucking mini coffee? Can't find it. That's sad. But we move on. Also, honestly, most new fridges I've ever had, if you have the fridge open for any length of like more than, I don't know, 30 seconds, it starts to beep. Hi, Rose. Does not have a door alarm. Interesting. Yeah, this one is it's got a button right in the middle, and I see where it was turned off. It's been turned back on. I'll let you know. Here's the thing. The privilege of not having a fridge alarm goes with the responsibility of closing the fucking fridge. Okay? And I don't want my fridge to have to work like that. That's not good for it. Oh, I sound like an old lady. It's not good for the fridge to have to cycle through different power cycles and the temperature to change. That's not good.
the officer came, did the officer file a police report?
He did not file a police report, but he did have notes, and then I did present those to the courthouse the
Right.
following day.
Right. Well, I mean, what you're telling me is essentially that Ms. Bowman committed the crime of trespass and that she committed the crime of malicious mischief. So
And then
that's being on
also,
your property without authority and also damaging your property. Those are crimes. You don't need an order from the court telling somebody not to commit a crime. So I'm a little curious if the officer actually saw all that, why there wasn't a report. Have you talked to them about that?
I did talk to him and he said that he was going to handle it. So
Okay.
he said there
And
wasn't
you
going to be a
this
report, but there was only going to be notes. And then he provided those notes. I went down to the Olympia Police Department. I got the transcript of his notes, and then I hand delivered them to your office at Civil.
no, I read those, but
Okay.
so you haven't followed up with the city of Olympia to find out, okay, those are notes, but what's happening with them? That they allege crimes and or it was
Basically
afforded.
told me that 98% of their calls are mental health issues, and they're kind of have their backs against the wall against
No,
that.
no, I understand that situation, but you may need to do some self-advocating here. Because as I've said, what you're
I went
telling
down there
me,
multiple times.
potentially, right, potentially, well, you can go talk to them and say, hey, I understand this may be trespass, it may be malicious mischief for the damage to my yard. Are you going to pursue criminal charges here?
Because they even stated in the notes that there was damage to the yard from the
Right.
car.
That's
And
why
I
I'm
also
mentioning
showed them,
those two. Those
excuse
are
me,
two crimes that you're telling me you believe Ms. Bowman committed. You don't need a protection order. The police frequently will say, well, they don't want to get involved. So how about if you just file a request for protection order? Well, you know, if it's a crime, it's a crime. Me telling me somebody don't commit a crime, that doesn't change anything. A crime is a crime. So that number one. Number two, Ms. Bowman calling your employer, I can't stop her from calling your employer. Your employer may not want to take the calls, and I
so
can't stop her from lying about you or saying mean things about you. That's something we cannot do. I said that in the last case, and I'll say it here.
also the other thing is she said that I was trying to molest her daughter at the bus stop in front of multiple houses.
Whoa, buddy, lead with that! Lead with that! What are you doing? Bro! Oh my god. What in the actual fuck? I'm over here measuring my hair, long as my arm length. I'm swinging it around, and then you drop that? Bro! What the? And look at her face.
Multiple cameras. The parents are always standing outside with their kids, and her kids have to walk. They walk instead of on the other side of the street. Her son walks through my yard, 15 feet off of the road, straight to the bus stop. And why would he be doing that if she thought that I was trying to harm her children? When only thing I'm doing is I'm taking my own son to school and coming back home, and then I grab my work truck and then I go to work. And I do that
Okay.
every day. So there's no way that, anything could be happening.
Right. Like I said, I can't do anything about what somebody says about somebody else.
So what about,
If you want to hire a lawyer and sue Ms. Bowman for libel, for making false statements about you and that it's harming your reputation,
what
that's the
about my
process
company's
you,
reputation?
okay,
Like,
Mr. Petey, that's the process you have to go through to deal with somebody saying things about you which you believe to be patently false and causing you damage. I can't tell somebody to stop doing that. This statute does not prohibit that, or does not allow that. So I just want to be really clear about that.
So what about the slander for my company and getting on social media and doing that type of thing?
Yeah,
'Cause-
I can't do anything about that.
Okay,
People
so
can say what they want to say, and it's up to the people who receive that to either believe it or not believe it. And you can't prohibit somebody from getting online and saying whatever they're going to say. I can't stop them from that.
Well, we've talked about specifically a case in Canada where an ex, and this is not related, but an ex-husband maintaining a slanderous website about an ex-wife and being ordered by a judge to take it down, refusing to do so, serving jail time. You're right that it's a civil matter, but what happened in this case is that it became a criminal matter when they refused to follow a court order. In Canada, you can, and in the United States, judges have broad abilities to restrict your freedoms with court orders in criminal matters. So if somebody is oh, thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, and thank you for the support and the super chat. But what I mean is, like, in a TPO case, let's say in a domestic violence case, somebody, the judge can say you can't go to this house even if you live there. In a divorce case, the judge can say you don't get to live there, but you have to pay for it. And then in criminal cases, a judge could say something like, you're not allowed to drink alcohol. You're not allowed to smoke marijuana, even though recreationally that might be legal in this state. They can go so far as to say, you're not allowed to use the internet. You understand what I'm saying? So even though those restrictions are not part of what this procedure might be, it's not out of line in some senses. So the case I'm referring to in Canada was particular. I think we went through it in a members only, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, thanks again for being here. Tons of fun carving. And let's continue. Arms uncrossed, Mr. Petey. It's not a good look.
So my next
You can
request is talking
you
to
can
the-
stop paying attention to it. I'll just give you my little secret. You know, I sit in this courtroom every day for 30 years, and some people leave happy and some people leave really irritated with me, and I'm sure they do something about it. I'm not in any social media, so whatever they post, I don't see. I don't see it. I don't care. So that's the way it goes. Anyway, I'm pointing out, and I've said it so many different ways, we can't stop what people say about somebody. I can deal with the interactions between the parties, but I cannot deal with what people say about somebody else.
So I have to pursue through the Olympia police to further their recourse from driving through the yard. Is that your advice?
If it happened to me and somebody was doing that and I thought they did it intentionally, I would definitely be saying, look, here's the evidence. And they, make them tell you there's not enough evidence. And they may say that. They may say, well, we don't have the evidence that she's the one who did it. Well, the officer was out pretty soon, and the notes make it sound like he thought it was her, but maybe he's going to say that's not enough evidence to give to the prosecutor. And he may be right. But that's the point at which they are going to have to tell you there's not enough evidence to pursue a criminal charge. And then you'll know, okay, maybe you need cameras up there. Maybe you need something to record the evidence if this is ongoing behavior. So I'm just letting you know what your options are in that regard. Ms. Bowman, did you want to say anything?
Yeah.
And I'll just, before you say anything, I'll just caution you. You heard me say in great detail to Mr. Petey that if in fact you were doing that, you potentially could have committed 2 different crimes: trespass, criminal trespass, and malicious mischief, which is the destruction of property. You're under oath. Mr. Petey is contemplating whether he's going to go to the police and ask them to pursue criminal charges. So anything you say today could be used against you in regards to those events. So you understand that?
I do. Yep.
And I suspect, if for some reason you had an attorney, they would say, oh, don't say anything, but it's your choice.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say is there is an active protection.
She didn't even fucking think about that for 1 second. Oh, I'm so sorry. I find that fucking hilarious. I mean, that was a microsecond after he was done speaking. There's no way she heard and thought about that properly. You dumb lady.
Order against Mr. Petey through the family court. They've been trying to serve him. Secondly, I want to say that I did not say that he molested my daughter at the bus stop. I did not slam the door in the officer's face. I did not yell at the officer. What I said, and it's exactly what I put in my protection order, is that he has referenced, and I'm not going to use the word, I'll say effing my daughter twice while we were, and he, I have, sorry, this is just a lot for me to take on because, yeah, that's what, and I'm trying to protect my daughter here. This is where I'm coming from. I never said that he molested my daughter. I said that he referenced effing her twice in two different occasions. And her bus stop is right in front of his house. She has come to me recently saying that he has been like staring out the window and making her uncomfortable. There's a 13-year-old girl that lives across the street whose mom I'm friends with, whose daughter volunteered that same exact information.
Okay, rank hearsay. The child hearsay, I was like, might come in. The neighbor that you know's daughter? Shut the fuck up. Ma'am? What are you talking about? I'm confused.
That he makes her feel uncomfortable. There is a woman who lives right next to him. I'm an avid walker in this neighborhood. I have owned my home for 20 years. I walk 3 to 4 miles a day. I just started jogging. And the neighbor that lives right next to him, who I run into while I'm walking a lot, because she also walks her dog, said to me, and I will get a statement if needed, if I ever come up missing, check his backyard and or know he had something to do with it. She does not talk to him. The man has done all kinds of stuff in this neighborhood to other people and other single moms. He's preyed on us. And I am an Indigenous woman, and so is my daughter. We are enrolled in a local federally recognized tribe, and Indigenous people go missing at 12 times the rate as anyone else.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, I fear for my daughter is what I fear for. And I never said he molested her.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear. He has never touched her.
I think I'm gonna call the biggest, I don't know. She had that jogging thing rolling off her tongue. He hasn't done anything. She's literally citing neighborhood lore, and she's lived there for how long? 20 years? He's the shitty guy in the neighborhood that they made up stories about in their head. It said that they don't talk about it. Why hasn't the judge said anything about hearsay? I don't know. And wait, is she the petitioner or is he the petitioner? Oh my God.
just want to make sure he never does.
All right, thank you.
So he's the petitioner in this case, but she said she had a case against him in family court? Did they date? Did they have a child together? Did they smash uglies? Oh God, please tell me they didn't. Please, Jesus. Sweet little baby Jesus, please tell me. Judge buffering. This is the judge. He's writing out something. He's denying this order. That's what I'm gonna guess. But yeah, he should probably call the cops. I don't know what to do. I mean, they're gonna. Oh, this is tough. She's like fabricated some weird thing, it seems to me. Allegedly. 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 The allegations that I make are all allegations, allegedly, and in my own opinion. Allegedly. Who's that lady? Where the fuck? Whoa. Ma'am. Ma'am, we're in court. But you know what? People go behind the judge all the time. Setting a terrible example, the judge is. So I theorize that she's seen it before. She blends right in. She was sitting in the chair the
I've
whole
denied Mr.
time.
Petey's request for a protection order. I don't find that there's a basis for it. Obviously, you know, Ms. Bowman, you are not allowed on his property, whether you're in your car or you're walking. And Mr. Petey has made very clear he doesn't want you contacting him. So you should respect that. And Mr. Petey, if Ms. Bowman violates either of those conditions, you're welcome to come back and seek a protection order after today's hearing, and you've made it very clear to her you don't want her on your property. But I have granted I denied the request for a full order in this case. Thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
What's the next case?
Tanya Boldis, Robert Neff, Marilyn Burko.
Oh, thruple. Thruple alert. Thruple alert.
Everybody stay standing for me, please. All raise your right hands. Swear the testimony in this case will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Maybe seated. Okay. Your neighbors?
Yes.
And for some reason, you're saying Ms. Burko has been sending you text after text after text.
Yes.
And at some point, she sent you a photo with a rifle in
Yes.
it. Okay. And what's the nature of the texts?
The rifle. I back up. It's been going on for a while. So it's basically about a fence deal, really. And
Oh, they're always
my
about a
yard's actually
fucking
fenced. The
fence.
first 2.5.
Always a fence, folks. Always a fence. The AFF rule. Always a fucking fence. Seriously, it's always about a fence. Always about a fence.
1.5 acres, and the back 2.5 acres got a barbed wire fence. I have a pair of goats, and when I'm at home, I let them out in the back part to graze, free graze. Once in a while, they'll sneak through the fence into her yard and in her little pasture and stuff. And in the past, she said it was okay. And I said, no, it's not okay. I'd be a responsible pet owner, and I bring them back home. I just call them, and they're real good. They come back. And long story short, early September, she got a dog, and now it's like an issue because she has this dog. So she's been texting me through the summer about a fence deal. I just refinanced the house with the interest rates and stuff. It's a little bit more money. So I told her, I go, over time, I will make the fence better type deal. But my goats have a pen that they stay in the pen unless I'm home, and I let them free range out back. So I'm always home when they're free ranging. So anyways, the texts went all summer long, and I was just trying to be polite and not say, no, I'm not building a fence right now. I don't have the finances. I don't have the money to just build a fence because you want it. And I don't think it's my responsibility because you have a dog that goes in my yard or goes into the other neighbor's yard. That's our responsibility to keep her dog out of our yard. So anyways, one day I was home, and I get a text from her and saying that you need to come over here or something like that. So I ran outside real quick and I looked out back and my goats are in my yard. And I look over and I see her on her property. And she says, you need to come over here. I got hurt. It's in the text messages. And then she says, I'm going to come over to you. And so I sent her a text saying, I'm not a doctor. And I knew she was a doctor. I don't have anything to dress any wounds. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to dress wounds or anything like that. And I said, sorry you got hurt, but there's nothing I can do, you know. Kept it real brief. Anyway, she came over and my girlfriend was leaving the house and she kind of stopped my girlfriend at the end of the driveway and stuff. And then I went out there and I told my girlfriend that she needed to go do her chores or wherever she was going to go shopping or whatever. And I would talk to Marilyn. And Marilyn told me about the fence and that she's going to sue me for what damages happened to her. And I'm like, how's this my fault? It all happened on her property, you know? And she's like, well, you need to build a fence. I go, first time all summer long, I looked her in her face and said, I'm not building a fence. That's it. I have a pen for my goats. They will not get out. I'll leave them in the pen forever now. And I'll feed them in the pen. It won't be an issue. Well, then she starts blowing me up all these texts over and over how I should respect her and all this stuff. And finally I got to a point where I said, you're making me uncomfortable. Please stop contacting me. And she did it again. And she did it again. So I just said again, please, you're making me uncomfortable. Please stop contacting me. And she did it again. And finally she says in one of her text messages that she's going to get a gun. It's her right. And if any animal or human comes on her property, that she's going to shoot him. Well, I'm scared for my life, especially it's a weird time right now. There's a lot of weird shootings and stuff going on and stuff like that. And I'm just not a gun person type of thing, you know. And so we called the sheriff. You know, the sheriff kind of heard our story. He came out. No, he didn't come out. We actually talked to him on the phone and stuff. And then he asked me to if he wanted me to call her. And I said, you know what? I think she thinks she's above authority. And if she hears it from you, maybe she'll stop calling me, you know. So he called her. Long story short, he calls us back, stuff. He goes, that was a long conversation. And we got off the phone with him and stuff. And yeah, still wasn't, you know, it bothered me that she said that. You know, I took it seriously that she said that for our own protection and stuff. And then we basically got off the phone with him, and about a week went by. It was really quiet, and I thought, well, maybe she took it seriously. Maybe she took that, you know, the conversation with him that, you know, he told her that she can't just shoot anybody that she wants to, or animals or anything like that. You know, I don't believe the goat's attacking her or anything like that, is what he said. I'm like, yeah, the goat runs away from people, you know. And not even like 4 days later, she texts me again. And finally, I'm just like, I'm fed up. I'm done with this. And then that's when we filed the protection order / harassment order.
Ms. Burko?
Well, I would say I'm substantially in agreement with most of what Robert said, with a few exceptions. So the physical layout is what he said. There is a mesh fence in the front part, which is a good barrier for those. There used to be 2 sheep and 2 goats. Now there's 1 sheep and 2 goats. And then the back part is a barbed wire fence, which is somewhat up, but it has big enough spaces that goats can easily jump through it. And until I got the dog, I didn't care whether the goats came over. I mean, I like animals, and they could, you know, eat in my pasture. It didn't bother me at all. So I'm pretty sure that I got the dog in late October or November, although maybe they have some texts that show otherwise, but I got the dog because I have a homeless daughter who's a drug addict who was living in a car with a pit bull who was unfixed, and she fell asleep and wrecked her car. And she asked me if I would take the dog, which is not a dog I ever would have chosen to take. But under the circumstances, I said yes. And I still have that dog. So, and that was, I think, the end of October. And so I only have two sets of neighbors, these guys and the guys on the other side. And fences and animals are the issue with all of us. So I got the dog fixed. I got the dog vaccinated. I took the dog to Fido's farm and had them evaluate the dog. And they said he's, a handful, but he's not a malicious dog. And but then at that time, I told Robert, this is not going to work anymore because these goats are over here all the time. It's not just once in a while. It was really quite regularly. And, my dog was running along their fence line, and apparently my dog was in their backyard, although I wasn't told that originally. But my dog also was in the other neighbor's backyard, and they were going to shoot him. And they said they were going to use lethal force. So, and then I got bear spray to try to protect myself and my dog from them. And then what happened was I was trying to work with the dog. I would take him out and I would walk him. I had harnesses, I had martingales, which is another kind of thing. And I would try to walk the dog in my backyard, occasionally on the road, which is a private road. And I'm left-handed. So I was out rocking my dog in my own backyard. In my own backyard, there's a barbed wire fence around the other two sides, which basically is down to the ground. So it's no barrier at all to anybody. And the dog would even run back there, but it's like miles of woods back there. So, and I figured the dog could fend for himself in terms of cougars and bears and so on, which I do have back there. So, so we were walking back there for about 40 minutes one day, and we came forward to the part which was cleared. And I saw one sheep in my front, in that part of the yard, behind the mesh fence and by the barbed wire. And the sheep the goat was basically unafraid of me or the dog. He was just, she was grazing just where she often did. And I thought, well, all right, we'll gradually approach this goat and we'll sort of make her go back to where she lives. And we were, and neither the dog nor the goat seemed alarmed. And then suddenly the goat jumped through the fence, at which point my dog jumped several feet and drove me into a tree and lacerated my face. And so I had blood running down my face.
That sounds like a your dog problem, ma'am. How is... I mean, she got to build her own fence, right? You can't just keep asking him to build the fence. If the dog chased the rabbit, who would she be harassing then? I'm very perplexed. Why? It seems odd to me. Build the fence in your property line slightly and have your safe fenced area. That's the way that you do this. You can't really just harass your neighbors about it. And she's fucking left-handed. Oh, Jesus. I'm kidding, guys. My sister's left-handed. But that is because I beat her. No, I'm just joking.
And I texted Robert and said, your goat was over here, and that's why I've had this injury, and I'm going to come over. So I went over, and I had blood running down my face. I had sent a picture, and Tanya and Robert were crossing paths. She was coming, he was going, He told her to go do what she was doing. And he said, oh, you can just clean it up. And I said, well, it's over the angle of my jaw. It's near my ear. I can't see the laceration. I can't see what structures are involved. And I'm going to go have it checked out. So I went to Indigo down the road, and I had a laceration, which is about that long. It was nice, clean laceration. It didn't involve my ear. It didn't involve the angle of my jaw. And he just glued it. And so I went home. And then over the next day or two, I realized that my hand was hurting me a lot. So I went back to Indigo, and they took an x-ray, 3 views, which showed that there seemed to be some laxity of my 4th digit and suggesting that something was wrong. So he sent me to a hand surgeon. The hand surgeon said that I had ripped the ligaments and tendons around of my 4th finger, which is why it's like this. And this injury, it doesn't need a cast or a splint, because it actually gets more stiff and has more problems if you do that. But he said this is one of the hardest injuries it takes the longest to resolve. It takes at least 6 months and sometimes longer. So that is, I am planning to sue them for personal injury, and it is for this injury primarily, but both.
If in the future, buddy, she sues you for that, come on down to my channel and I will happily provide you with this video that you can use to show her admitting that her dog did it. Oh my god. Oh wow. On her property, her dog. Because, again, what? This is like, cover the girls up, and we won't rape them kind of attitude, allegedly. You know what I mean? Like, oh, if you weren't wearing that slutty outfit, if the goat wasn't flaunting itself in front of my dog.
But, and he knows that because I let him know that. But so when I went over and he told me, just clean it up. And then afterwards, I went back and told him I was, about the laceration. And he said, you're a doctor. I'm not sorry. And I'm not really sure what that meant, but I have it in a text message. It seemed
Also, this story is exactly the same as his story, which is very rare. You understand that, right? Like, generally we hear sort of opposite stories. Like, he would say one thing and she would say the polar opposite. He said all of this. He already said this exact text message. And it makes sense to me. If you're a doctor and you need help with your injuries, why would you go to some random neighbor that you don't have a good relationship with? Like, he doesn't know what to do. This is not the apocalypse. Like, I also might be perplexed if I received that text message, and I think his response was, I mean, he's not as articulate as you, lady. I don't know. This is fucking weird. I'm so glad I don't live in Thurston County.
To put it mildly. And so then what I thought to myself, so I'm widowed. My husband died 2 years ago, and he was an expert marksman, and we used to have guns on the grounds. I don't know if this is relevant, but 6 months before he died, about 6 months before he died, he was very despondent, and I went into my garage and he had a gun to his head. I think he had a 37 and a 44 and a rifle. And I had a guy on the premises who used to do work for me. And George said, what would you do if I shot myself in the head? And I said, please don't do that. And I asked the worker who was on my premises to take those guns. And he did, but unbeknownst to me, he was actually a felon and he stole those guns. So, and I had seen the guns. I've never shot a gun. I've never owned a gun. But I do have bear in my backyard pretty often. I do have coyotes in my backyard. I do have people who used to work for me who were unreliable, and they know where I live. They know the grounds intimately. And then I have these neighbors and the other neighbors who basically have kept me isolated for the last 2 years. You know, they never help.
Kept you isolated? Hold on. She had this rosy picture of what her life would be like with the neighbors, and they're not living up to their bargain? They don't really owe you anything, ma'am. Hire somebody or pay someone or I don't know. Cost of living is high these days. Let someone live in your house. I don't recommend that, but I don't know. Like, what the fuck?
Neighbors who basically have kept me isolated for the last 2 years. You know, they never help. Tanya occasionally asks how I'm doing. And then the fence, because I had really been asking him from when I got the pit bull, you know, like this is going to be an accident waiting to happen. That's really my thought. And I guessed that he was having financial difficulties, and I suggested that I could go halves with him on the fencing, but he wasn't interested. And then I said, my workers who I had there at that time, I said, my workers can put in this fence, because he said he already had the materials. And he just said, no, I'm not doing it, period. And then this thing happened because the accident that I predicted would happen, a variant of that happened. Should I stop for a moment? Okay, no?
I know. Is there anything more you need to tell me?
Well, then I just decided to get a gun. And I have never, I'm a retired pediatrician. I've worked for reliable gun legislation at the legislature for years. I know a gun in the house is usually a bad idea, but in this particular case, there was only me. And I figured a rifle would be a good thing to get, because I can shoot whatever I'm shooting at a distance, not myself, but you know, and my intention was to use it as necessary on my own premises, and that's still my intention.
Thank you. All right. And Mr. Neff, anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, this is a very long story that I don't want to waste your time with, so.
Judge, can I say one other thing?
Sure.
In his statement, he says that I'm suicidal. And there's some truth to that. Not today, but I have been suicidal somewhat over the past couple of years, which is why I would never get a handgun, right? But I do feel that on the balance, given the wildlife that's in my own backyard, given the other, you know, the animals coming and going and so on and so forth, that I need to have my Second Amendment rights.
All right. Thank you. And the purpose of sending a photo with the weapon is just to let them know.
To let them know that I am part of the neighborhood now. And I don't know, I know they say that they don't have guns, and well, I guess that's not what he said, but I think I'm the only one in the neighborhood without guns. And I know that there's target practicing behind their house on a fairly regular basis, as well as further down the street. And so somebody, you know, I feel that I need to defend myself And I will say one further thing, which is I talked to two Thurston County deputies about this incident. So first I called animal control and they said, no, livestock are not animal control. Livestock are.
America, America, it is America. It's my best rendition of how people sing America.
Whatever. There's a whole other category, right? So then I called the Thurston County Sheriff and he said, what did he say? Well, he said, have you looked at the RCW? It's like, no, I have not. And I don't even know how to look them up. So that officer looked them up and kind of paraphrased them for me. And what he told me is that if the livestock is on your land, it's yours to claim. And then he also said, well, it was about the livestock we were talking about. So then I said to him, it's like in the Old West. It's like if the longhorn comes on your ranch, it now belongs to you and you can shoot it and eat it. And we laughed about that. And then, so when I texted Robert that, if your livestock or you come on my property, I have the right to shoot you. That was actually my understanding. And then I talked to the second deputy who he must have spoken with at length, because that guy called me up and said, this sounds like terroristic threatening, or, well, as a minimum. I mean, no, maybe as a maximum. He said, this sounds like terroristic threatening. Are you planning to go kill them or their animals? And it's like, no, I'm not. And he said, well, you need to understand that in this state, the RCW says you can only kill the animals or the person if they are an imminent threat to you. So I guess there's a few questions I have about that. The first is, if a person is an imminent threat to me, I hope I recognize it fast enough to do something useful. But regarding the goat, the goat was not an imminent threat to me, but the scenario was an imminent threat to me. So if I wait till the goat comes and attacks me, that's not going to fix my problem. What was the second question? Well, then there's a few questions about, like, we're supposed to be 1,000 feet apart from each other. I don't even think our houses are 1,000 feet apart from each other. And then the third person who's been named in their household, I think, is Robert's stepdaughter or daughter. Anyway, to my knowledge, she doesn't live there. I have met her before, or I've seen her before, but if she were to come anywhere on the street, I wouldn't recognize her. So it's kind of hard for me to comply with both those things.
Right now, there is no order, so.
Well, if there were an order.
Okay, so, I mean, I just want to be clear, there's nothing that restricts anything by distance at all. No restriction on.
Well, I'm willing to stop harassing them. And
Oh my God. Is he going to be able to ignore that? Is he going to be able to ignore that? I mean, he has to issue this order. Oh, we gotta listen to that again. Look at his face. He's like, bitch, please.
I mean, I just want to be clear, there's nothing that restricts anything by distance at all. No restriction on.
well, I'm willing to stop harassing them. And I'm really not planning to kill anybody, sheep or goats or anybody, if they stay off my property.
They want the order against her, by the way, guys. They're asking for the order against her, if I'm not mistaken. Also, that was fucking nuts. 10 more seconds. Let's watch it again.
Well, I'm willing to stop harassing them. And I'm really not planning to kill anybody, sheep or goats or anybody, if they stay off my property. And I do want to have a rifle, and I will learn to shoot it. And I think I need it for all the reasons that I just mentioned.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Boldis, did you want to add in?
Yeah, well, first, it's not my daughter that's mentioned in there. It's his mother and her boyfriend. My daughter is not mentioned anywhere in there because she doesn't live there anymore. I did want to make a statement, but now I don't remember what it was, but it was our neighbor that's next to us that has his own range on weapons that he fires off. So I just wanted to let her know that it's not us, that it's happening in our backyard. It's the neighbors that are next to us. And then I believe he has neighbors on his other side that they have their own range of weapons that they fire off. So it is not happening in our backyard.
Can I ask as a point of clarification? You don't have guns?
I never said I didn't have guns. I said I did not fire my guns in my backyard.
Oh.
So.
All right, sounds like an armed neighborhood to me.
It's rural.
It's county, right?
It's rural. Yeah.
Oh, my. Right.
Oh boy is right. What are you gonna do here, Judge? She's pondering.
Just we have a constitutional right to own firearms, but that has to be exercised responsibly. And firearms aren't the solution to any but the most immediate problem. So, for example, Dr. Burko, shooting somebody because they're trespassing you on your property when have you end up in jail on a murder charge.
I get that. And
So
I just don't
what the law
disagree.
says is in that regard is not only is the danger imminent, but you have to be threatened with the same level of violence. So if somebody's raising their fist to you, there's an argument that you can't use a firearm. And there could be permutations of that might change that a bit, but I would not view your weapon as a personal safety weapon from another person. And the shooting of livestock or pets is, obviously it's going to cause great consternation to the other party and probably forever poison that relationship. I do hear cases not frequently, I hear cases occasionally involving cows and other livestock that wander continually, break down their fences, go to neighbors' property. They're found in the road. They're found all over the place. And even though it's irritating to people, most people work out a process by which they call the neighbor comes over, gets their animal, returns the animal. On the other hand, for Mr. Neff, you've told me the goats are in the pen now. If you know that they have this pattern of getting out of fence, which you haven't been able to afford to make sure they can't get out of, in that case, you have to keep them in the pen because you are responsible for any damage they can do to anybody else. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether there's a actual claim for personal injury in this case. That if that case comes before me, then I'll weigh in on it, but that case isn't before me. But if you're going to keep goats, you have to make sure that your goats aren't invading other people's spaces. They have the right not to have your goats on their property. Much like you have the right not to have a pit bull on your property. So I'm not going to enter an order in this case. Dr. Burko, Mr. Neff and Ms. Boldis don't want to get your texts.
That will stop, I guarantee it.
And I'm not going to enter an order, so you folks will have a little flexibility here in saying, hey, your goats are on my property again, so that they know and can come get them. Or, hey, your dog is scaring, is on my property barking at my goats, so that it can come get them. But outside of that, there shouldn't be communication back and forth. You both have heard each other. You both know what the issues of concern are. It doesn't appear like they are presenting any sort of firearm danger to you. Sounds like it's their neighbors who are doing the shooting. So I don't want you to think that you're under attack. And I'm not going to restrict your ability to possess a firearm. You're a doctor. You understand the nature of depression. And
Oh, this is professional
Yes, I do.
courtesy.
firearms
This is what that is.
with depressed people
You're a
is not a
doctor.
great thing. But, I've listened to you and I have no concern about your competency and your ability to go rationally through that process.
Freudian slip, rationalization is what it was.
Anyway.
Can I just clarify a couple things? So the other people named in that complaint are your mother and father, who are visitors sometimes. Is that right?
They're staying with us.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what should I do so I know how to recognize them?
Well,
There's no order.
nobody can be on your property unless you give them permission.
Right.
So I suspect you won't find Ms. Boldus's parents on your property crawling through the barbed wire fence.
See, okay. Well, and the other thing is, I just paid $14,000 to get a fence put up on my property, which is not yet built, but will be. And that is so that the pit bull and I can be
Humble brag.
safe.
Right.
But that's only a portion of my property.
Mhm.
It's only like an acre and a half, maybe out of 5.5 acres. And in the backwoods where, he can run free, he doesn't run off. But there's no way to secure that much property.
Right.
So
So if you let them run into the back, the same thing for Mr. Neff and his goats. He's responsible for making sure if they're not on his property, they're not doing damage to somebody else, and you're responsible for your dog when it's not confined in your property, that's not doing damage someplace else.
well, and I have found out that every time your dog goes on somebody's property, there's I think it's a $50 fine, which if it's only an occasional thing and he's not really harming anybody, I mean, I'm not saying I would make a habit of that, but that might be kind of an inevitability. But if my dog is actually posing a risk to anybody, of course, I need to know about it.
Okay. All right. I think we've worked our way through this one.
Thank you.
I will sign the denial order, so have all three of you sit tight and we'll give you a copy of it. And Ms. Boldus and Mr. Neff, you're welcome to come back and seek another order if in fact there's behavior that you think warrants it. Same for Dr. Burke, or you come seek an order, but I can't order goats to not change property. I can't order a dog not to go onto somebody else's property. All we can deal with are the owners of those animals. And you both sound like you are taking steps to restrain the impulses of your animals to wander. And hopefully that will keep things down and they don't need to get all the texts about
they won't.
building the fence. If you want them to contribute to a fence that's built, it's a reasonable thing for neighbors to do, to ask each other, and you can do that. But if they say no, that's no. You can't force them to do that unless you sue them. And we'll just leave it there.
Perfect, Judge. Perfect spot to just leave it there. They leave after that. That was wrong. The judge was wrong. He made a mistake, in my opinion. And if that lady wasn't a doctor, that would have been issued. Literally any other occupation, perhaps other than, I don't know, even would have got her like, seriously, if your neighbor, she admitted to harassing on the record, I mean, it's all over the place. Anyways, sorry. Thanks, guys, so much for being here. I hope that nothing happens to that guy, and I hope that nothing happens with this lady, but the judge got this one wrong, in my opinion. That's what I'm gonna say about it. Anyways, I hope that you guys had a wonderful day. The rest of Saturday is before us. It's March now. Welcome to March. Birthday month, by the way. Birthdays galore coming up, including mine at the end of the month. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. Yeah, members only tomorrow will be a later one. It'll be at like 10 East. But until then, I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Do me a favor, remember that I love you and I'm proud of you and my long hair, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye. Hey, wait. So much fun. Thank you for being here. Tons of fun carving. I appreciate you guys. Check out all of the links that we've posted for all the different channels from all the talented people in this chat. You guys are amazing. Do me a favor. Remember that I love you, I'm proud of you, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye.
Always down and ready to ride.